Okay. Okay. Hello. Welcome to the weekly tactics stream. I'm John, Blood Angels Commander. You should probably know this if you're here on the channel. So, thanks for tuning in. Hello. I'm not even going to try and pronounce your name. Nog. I don't know how your accents are, but hello, welcome. So I'm sure you guys know every week we check out some army list submissions. It always happens on a Sunday, always happens about 4 o'clock. So, I got a few comments this week actually. I think there was like 3 or 4 lists, so I've picked 2. I mean, I think 2 runs for about an hour, so I guess that's what we do. If you don't get your list reviewed, please just submit it again. I mean, I'll try and do as much as I can, but Okay, so the 2 we've got today are from hello William, thanks for tuning in. The 2 we've got today are one from Mika and one from Sammy. So both lists look pretty interesting, and we'll just run through them on Battlescribe, and we'll make them up and we'll talk about them. And I want to mention as well, somebody put a comment on last week's battle review, battle report that I put up I think on Tuesday. I've got another battle report coming. It's this time it'll be Blood Angels against Iron Hands. Iron Hands, pretty difficult army to fight against. The guy that was running the Iron Hands list as well had 2 Leviathan Dreadnoughts with storm cannons. So really quite difficult to run against, and it's a much more Blood Angels themed army. Like, I think I have Dante, I think I have the Sanguinary Guard, couple of Sanguinary Ancients and stuff. So if you want to check that out, make sure you're subscribed, because that should be coming in a couple of weeks. And I think on Tuesday this week we'll have a painting tutorial for Commander Dante. I recently finally painted Commander Dante, so it's going to be the first painting tutorial on the channel. So yeah, without any more chatter, I guess let's have a look at the 2 rosters that we have for today. The first one is Mika, and it's going to be 2,000 points. I like to look at 2,000 points. I mean, that's typically what I play, 2,000 point games. I used to play larger games, and I kind of maybe want to do a couple of larger games in 9th edition, but for the moment we're just going to keep looking at 2,000 point games. So, let's go ahead and create a Blood Angels battalion. So this first battalion has 1 additional Relic of Baal. I always seem to end up with additional Relics of Baal, 1 or 2. I mean, I think this is pretty standard. And he has Asteroth with Exorant of Range and Canticle of Hate. I need to double check what Exorant of Range is. I always run Asteroth with Manta of Strength and Canticle of Hate, or I like Catechism of Fire if you have some shooting things. What is Exorant of Rage? Alright, okay, so it's Exploding Sixes. So, I guess that's kind of useful. More attacks in close combat is always useful, so I'm trying to work out if Exploding Sixes is better than Mantra of Strength, because Mantra of Strength on Asteroth is actually really strong. It makes him almost wound most things in the game on 2s. Unless they're Toughness 8, I guess, because his axe is +2 Strength, so that makes him Strength 7, and then you obviously get the +1 to wound. So that's usually my go-to with Asteroth, and then obviously adding 1 to his damage characteristics is really strong, because he already has that. On rolls of 5 or 6, his weapon does a flat 3 damage, so like it's essentially doing 4 damage a hit. So okay, but I mean, we'll go with what he said. I guess he's running, and then Mephiston. So I've been playing Mephiston lately. I've been playing him with Wings, Shield, and Quickening, but Mika's playing him with Unleash Rage and Blood Boil. I kind of covered Mephiston a little bit a couple of weeks ago in my video. Blood Boil is fine, I guess. It's just not super reliable. I mean, you need to outroll the toughness on 2d6, and it can suffer mortal wounds. I mean, I guess against infantry or other special characters, it's probably pretty easy to do some mortal wounds. Against something like a Leviathan Dreadnought, which is fighting this week, probably not so easy to do mortal wounds against it. But I guess Blood Boil is fine, and then Unleash Rage is the way to buff attacks as well. So I mean, I think this list has quite a lot of melee, so I guess we'll see. So it's 2 ways to add additional attacks to melee, which is cool. I mean, it's nice to, if you're doing a melee focused list, it's nice to take the powers that totally focus on the melee. So that's understandable. And then a Sanguinary Priest. So the Sanguinary Priest is an interesting pick, I guess. He obviously gives +1 strength in close combat, which makes it even more so that you'll wound on 2s. In some ways, this might be lost a little bit. Like, if you're running Sanguinary Guard or Death Company with Thunderhammers, you are Toughness 8. So unless you are Strength 8. So unless you're up against Toughness 8, so anything below Toughness 8, so Toughness 7 and below, you wound on 2s anyway. So the Sanguinary Priest here is only really going to help you out against enemy armor or like demons that have really high toughness. I don't know what else it brings to the table. I mean, I guess you can heal some wounds and stuff. And he actually gave the priest, he made the priest the warlord, gave him Speed of the Primarch, an icon of the angel. Speed of the Primarch, icon of the angel is here. Obviously as a bolt pistol and a chainsword. Oh, we give him a plasma pistol. I actually think you can't do that anymore. This guy became additional weapon options for the Sanguinary Priest became legends. I'm personally not super happy about this anyway, because I actually have 2 Sanguinary Priests, both made, both painted, and one has like a Stormbolt or a Power Fist. So to me it's a little bit annoying that they made it that all the additional weapon options are legends, but I guess it depends on how serious or how like if this is a tournament list, then this is an invalid list that you've provided, Mika, because it's really strange. In the 8th edition, they took away the ability to run a Sanguinary Priest with a jump pack, right? But if you had the index, or the indexes, whatever they were called, the books that came out at the very beginning of 8th, that before the Codex, they said you could run a Sanguinary Priest with a jump pack, and you could have all the different weapon options. And then in the Blood of Baal book, they recently gave you back the ability to run the jump pack, but they didn't give you back any of the weapon options. So this is an invalid option at the moment. I'm very curious, if you're going to take Speed of the Primarch though, why would you run it on a 65-point character and not run it on your 170-point Mephiston? Like, you need Mephiston to survive, right? So you don't really need the Priest to survive. I feel like it would be more valuable to run this on Mephiston, but I guess it's up to you. And then if we look at troop choices, we have 2 Assault Intercessor squads, and we have 2 Assault Intercessor squads just with the standard loadouts. And then we have a Scout squad with sniper rifles. Yeah, it looks like the whole squad has sniper rifles. So I ran Scouts with sniper rifles in 8th edition, and I ran them quite often, I guess. And he needs a camel. Oh, he can have a sniper rifle and a chainsword, I think, the sergeant. Let me see if you put that into your list. You give him a combat knife. Okay, same difference. I guess combat knife. But, yeah, question mark around the Scout squad right now. There seems to be a lot of weapons that are doing a lot more damage now in 9th edition. And I've tried to run scouts and I've tried to run tactical squads a few times, and both times they've just been like deleted off the board really quickly by the enemy. It doesn't seem like it's the best idea. I don't know what else to say. I just think that until, like, I don't think scouts are going to get 2 wounds, right? I think tactical squads are going to get 2 wounds. Scouts, I think, are going to stay on 1 wound and stay with their 4-up save. So based on that, I guess if you've got these guys in cover, you know, and I think they don't have camo cloaks, do they? No, they do. Scouts have camo cloaks. So I guess if you've got them in cover, maybe you have a 2-up save and maybe they can stay in cover, but still, the 1 wound, they're just going to get deleted very quickly. I don't know. I did a big video this week on intercessors. Maybe it's worth watching that video and see what you think. But yeah, I just haven't had success with 1 wound infantry, especially trying to hold objectives. It's just too easy for the enemy to deep strike in and take them out. There's so many things that could take out these scouts. You know, any sort of charge, once somebody's in melee combat with them, they're going to struggle. I mean, they only have 1 attack each. Bear in mind, I guess that can get buffed a bit with Savage Echoes, but still, yeah, I think if you leave these guys deep in your deployment zone trying to secure something, they're gonna get deleted by something. You know, stuff I've played against, like I mentioned it this week, Grav Devastators, they'll instantly delete that squad, no question. I've had deep striking Terminators, Chaos Terminators, they're back, so that's Chaos Terminators with Storm Bolters and Combi Bolters with Melta Guns. Well, they'll delete that squad in the second flat as well. So if you are trying to hold an objective with that squad of scouts, you're probably going to end up losing the objective, and it could cost you quite a lot of VP. So I would almost be tempted to at least have something a little bit stronger for your third troop choice. Okay, and then Death Company. So we've talked a lot about Death Company recently. And the big issue I have with Death Company right now is the points cost for the fact that they do not have 2 wounds yet. So this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 man Death Company. So that's coming in at like 190 points, and then 210 points once you add the 2 points per model. Jump packs, we have 1. So I'm not entirely sure why there isn't more weapon options for Death Company right now within Battlescribe. There should be. Maybe I haven't needed to update, but okay, I mean, he's got 1 Thunderhammer in the group, and then we've got a couple of various weapon options. It's just an awful lot of points. He had his one coming at 240, so I guess like he had a bolt pistol and a power axe, an infernal pistol, a hand flamer. So you know what, we can get these to 240 points by just saying that 2 had Thunderhammers. So it's annoying. Like, I have a fully painted Death Company. Just they're unreliable until we get. They can't benefit from the Standard of the Sacrifice, so they only have their 6+ Feel No Pain. You can pay 1 CP to get Refusal to Die to give them a 5+ Feel No Pain. I still think it's unreliable, and the fact that they only have 1 wound, I feel like the game has moved on from Space Marines with 1 wound being any sort of strong character. Like, hell, even the Sanguinary Guard, and in the meta that I play in, Sanguinary Guard obviously have two wounds and a 2+ save. So these guys, and then they have a 5+ Feel No Pain because I'm always carrying the Banner Bearer with them, the Standard of Sacrifice. Even they get deleted off the board pretty reliably. So I think this Death Company squad, all you can really do with them is drop them down in Deep Strike, maybe, and use your Icon of the Angel or whatnot to try and get your charge off. I mean, at that point, if you're going to do that, then you'd almost be better using Lamartes over Asteroth, right? Because Lamartes lets Death Company reroll charges. Let me just double confirm that, because I haven't played Lamartes in 9th edition just because, like I said, I felt like he was a bit weaker. Huh. When a charge roll was made for Death Company within 6, yeah, so you could almost be better taking Lamartez, dropping him down with these guys. Still, it's 350 points, and if you know me, then you know that I like looking at maths to work out if we're going to win the battle or not, because if we don't know the math, then how are we ever going to win? And if we roll 2d6, and we re-roll 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, this is your chance. If we add up these numbers, that is your chance of making it a 9-inch charge. Bear in mind, Blood Angels get +1. So we add up all these, 21.99, and hello to the people tuning in on stream. So we get 65%, give or take, I guess 66% chance. If you drop them in and you have the 2d6 charge and you get to re-roll the charge because Lamart is there, it's a 66% chance. If you don't have the re-roll, it's actually only a 40% chance. So that's why Deep Strike right now with melee heavy things is very risky, right? Even with a re-roll 65% chance, I know you can pay to get the 3d6 charge, but you can only do that to one unit, right? So the 3d6 charge is a guaranteed charge with the Descent of the Angels, but you can only do that one time per turn. So if you drop down a commander and a squad, you can only guarantee one of them gets in. You can't guarantee both get in. So, yeah, that's my thought on Death Company right now. They need a buff. I really hope something's going to happen. The rumour is that next Friday is going to be some pre-orders. And that's the rumour I heard this weekend for the new Space Marine Codex. And then maybe there'll be some other information about the supplements after that. Hopefully that is true. And then this list has a Sanguinary Guard. And it's a small one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys only. Obviously they have the desk mask, and then it's 5 with power fists. Okay, and then there is a Sanguinary Ancient with a power fist and the Standard of Sacrifice. So Sanguinary Ancient, power fist, Standard of Sacrifice. So that's the second relic. Alright, so basically you have a small 6-man Sanguinary Guard, and then, do you know what, we'll come back to them, we'll see what else this list contains. For heavy support, we have a Baal Predator. I have not run the Baal Predator in the longest time either. So this is a Baal Predator with a twin assault cannon, a storm bolter, twin heavy bolters. Yeah, this is how my Baal Predator was. And I guess that's fine. And then, 173 points for that. What's the twin assault cannon? Heavy 12, 6 -1. I believe assault cannons are getting buffed, right? Or is it... maybe it's not the assault cannon that's getting buffed. Maybe it's the onslaught cannon. So, and then we know heavy bolters are getting buffed for sure. So they're going to do 2 damage. So I guess right now, the heavy 6 isn't that wonderful, but in the next update, I guess it's going to be essentially heavy 6, but potential of doing 12 damage. So that's a little bit more interesting. Predators are pretty weak though, right? Toughness 7, 11 wounds, no invulnerable save. Pretty easy to shift off the board, I guess. Hard to say. I mean, as it stands, you've got Asteroth and Mephisto to jump in and do a lot of damage. You've got the Death Company and the Sanguinary Guard to jump in and a lot of damage. I guess you're maybe trying to focus these on armor. The Baal Predator, obviously, this is more like an infantry killer. Do you need to have an infantry killer with the squad? Because any of these things can jump into, the Death Company. If they jump into infantry, they'll kill them. The Sanguinary Guard, if they jump into infantry, they'll likely kill them. Same goes for Asteroth and Mephiston. So it's an interesting question. Is the Baal Predator an amazing choice here? I'm unsure. And then there's actually a Vanguard detachment in this list. So let's add that. See, only once in 9th edition have I ran a list with 2 detachments. I've really, really enjoyed starting the game with like 12 CP. I think if you start a game as a Blood Angels player with 12 CP, that's more CP than I think I ever had in 8th edition. And when you start a game with that much CP, you get so many options. You know, you get Upon Wings of Fire, you get Descent of the Angels, you get to Honor the Chapter. There's just a lot you can do with that many CP. All right, so let's add a few more things for this list. There's a Librarian Dreadnought with Quickening and Shield of Sanguinius. Librarian Dreadnought. Quickening, obviously, to buff his attack. Shield of Sanguinius, I guess, to give himself an invulnerable save. I mean, I guess all that's fine. It's equipped with Stormbolter. There's an Indominus Lieutenant. Well, I talked a little bit this week about the Indominus Lieutenant. If you don't have an Indominus Lieutenant, go check out my video on that. I actually been running this guy as a Warlord a couple of times. I almost think I'd almost say lose the Warlord from the Sanguinary Priest. I don't see really all that value in this. Give this Indominus Lieutenant the Warlord and like give him Artisan of War or something. So his sword is now 3 damage a pop because his sword is super powerful. So Strength 5 sword with -3 AP, and then obviously once we get to turn 3 it's -4 AP. So not many things are saving against that sword, and if that sword is doing 3 damage a pop, then that Lieutenant can do a lot of work. Like, I've had him do a lot of work in multiple games. Okay, and then this next bit of this list is very interesting, because this is something I haven't run yet. So we've got the Blade Guard Ancient, and we've got a Blade Guard Veteran Squad. Blade Guard Veteran Squad. I guess there's no extra options on these guys. The Ancient's banner lets the Blade Guard Veterans reroll ones or reroll hits. I need to check this. I haven't run these guys yet. Okay, so it gives 1 to their hit rolls, so it's not reroll, sorry. So the Blade Guard would now hit on 2s rather than 3s, and then if 1's destroyed, they get to make an additional attack. That's kind of cool. I kind of like that Astartes banner. In some ways, I feel a little bit sad that the Terminators and the Sanguinary Ancient don't get a choice in which banner they run, because the regular Astartes banner is very interesting, especially if you've got like a strong group of these guys with their swords. So basically, every time they die, they can make 1 additional attack with their swords. Especially if their swords are hitting on 2s, probably going to be wounding on 2s or 3s, and -3 or -4. Really quite an interesting combo for Blood Angels. I mean, essentially our Blade Guards are probably going to be better than any Blade Guards for all the Space Marine chapters. So, okay. And then a Judicar, which I love. The Judicar obviously makes 1 enemy fight last every turn. Something that's interesting with this as well is like his sword does mortal wounds on 6s, and mortal wounds on 6s, and his Temper Mortis. At the start of each fight phase, select 1 enemy within 6 inches of the model. That unit must fight last, basically. The interesting thing you can do with the Judicar, though, right, is I talked about this in one of my other videos. Contempt. Unbridled Ardor. Unbridled Ardor is a stratagem. 1 CP. What it does is it lets you heroically intervene 6 inches. So basically, if there's an enemy within 6, you can jump forward 6 and then pick another enemy within 6 to fight last. You have to do that at the start of the phase, so you'd have to heroically intervene and then do that. But again, like I said, I'm not super fond of this Warlord pick here. You could even make the Judicar the Warlord, and then you can give him Selfless Valor, which is exactly the same. Or you can make him a hero. We could have made him just we can make him a hero of the chapter, right? I don't know why it's not showing up. Pretty sure you can make him a hero of the chapter. I'd have to double check why it's not showing up. But anyway, Selfless Valor, check this one out. So this is the exact same. So your warlord can perform a heroic intervention 6 rather than 3. So he can basically pick someone 6 away from him to fight last. He can heroically intervene 6, which basically means once you get into the mid game, you can almost pick something within 12. You know, like if there's an enemy within 6, heroically intervene into them and then pick something that's last. It's very strong. I did this tactic just last week against an Ultramarines player. The Judicar wasn't even in combat. He was just hiding like under a building, and Gilliman ran in to like fight a Leviathan, and I was like, excuse me, Gilliman, you need to fight last. And like my Leviathan Dreadnought just ate him for breakfast, basically. I love my stratagem with the Judicar is just have him running around right on the heels of some of your big units that you want to wreck in combat. And obviously you can do this in both fight phases, your fight phase and your enemy fight phase. So think about the Judicar. He is definitely an interesting pick. I just finished painting one. And then to finish off this list, we have another 5-man Sanguinary Guard. And I mean, I guess there's no real reason for them. Yeah. Okay, so it's another 5-man Sanguinary Guard. And I guess what I was going to say about this as well is the Sanguinary Guard have the ability to ignore. Sorry, it's the ability to reroll hits, right, when they are within 6 of your warlord. I forget the name of that rule exactly. I think it's called Heirs of Ezekiel. It's not Ezekiel, sorry. Sanguinary Guard. But the rule is that they can reroll failed hits if they're within 6 of the warlord. So I guess two 5-man squads of Sanguinary Guard. I'm not sure how I feel about this currently, right? This list is hugely melee focused, and I have actually missed something because he had this list come in at exactly 2,000 points. So what have I missed? We got the Librarian Dreadnought, we got the Indominus Lieutenant. That comes in at 687, and then this first one comes in at 1322. Alright, so we're missing something off this list. We have the Battle Predator, we have the Sanguinary Guard, the Ancient, the Death Company, the Scouts, the Assault Intercessors. Oh, maybe it's the Sanguinary Priest needs a jetpack. I didn't add that, right? And then it's the plasma. I guess there's a plasma pistol missing there, but I guess we already talked about how that's not really a valid configuration. So okay, yeah, I guess what to say about this list then is it's crazy melee heavy, which is okay. The only unit you've got that's really not melee is your Battle Predator. Definitely going to have a weaker shooting phase, that's for sure. I'm not sure. This reminds me a lot of the list that I played in 8th edition, where everything was super melee. And I mean, it can work if you deep strike really tactically and you come down behind buildings and then you jump out. You will have to deal with. You don't have to deal with so much Overwatch. Now, I feel like you're going to struggle to get your Blade Guard across the table. They're in the No, they're not in Gravix armor. Sorry. So they're just going to be running for a few turns because you've got no you don't have any transport they can go in. So I don't like that. Like, I'd almost say, like, make this first squad of Sanguinary Guard bigger, or, do you know what, drop the Death Company for now. We talked about how they're not really viable at the moment. They're just with 1 wound, they're too weak. Drop the Death Company, pick up an Impulsor, get the Ancient and the Veteran squad, and maybe even the Judicar into that Impulsor, and get them right across the table straight away. Impulsor removes 14, right? So 14 plus 1 from the advance and d6, so the minimum it will move is 16, the best it can move is 21. So if you move the Impulsor 21 forward, give it a shield dome so that you has an invulnerable save, it's unlikely your opponent will kill it in turn 1. And if they do kill it in turn 1, they'll probably have to put a lot more firepower into it than, and maybe waste firepower on. If they're wasting firepower on your Impulsor, everything else is getting across the board really effectively. And then maybe I'd honestly take something, some sort of heavy support here, or we talked about as well the scout choice being kind of weak. Just they're too easy to annihilate. If you can't hold an objective with them, and I'd argue that these assault intercessors, like the role from when I'm playing assault intercessors, you don't want them sitting on objectives, right? Like they're supposed to get forward, they're supposed to be in hand to hand. Their shooting is pretty dire. Obviously, it's just heavy 1 at 18 inches. So, I wouldn't sit with these guys in my deployment zone, because I just think it's a waste of what those guys can do. So, if you did, let's just look at it. Let's drop the Death Company, because until they get a buff in the new Codex or the new supplement, I think they're, I don't want to say they're useless, but they kind of are. I mean, I think they're just overpointed. Especially their save is just so weak. Vanguard Veterans might be better. With the changes to Storm Shields coming, Vanguard Veterans may actually end up being better than Sanguinary Guard. Depends if Sanguinary Guard get given a 3rd wound. Because Vanguard Veterans, with the +1, with the Storm Shield changing to +1 to your armor save and a 4+ invulnerable save, you're essentially going to get probably a better. They're going to be more survivable just for the invulnerable save. So yeah, it sucks for everybody that's spent the time painting Death Company and making big Death Companies, but it is what it is. The rules go around and come around. I'm sure at some point Death Company will be useful again. I really hope they are, otherwise they'll be really sad. So if you did take an Impulsor and you threw it on the Shield Dome, and then you've got your Blade Guards and your Judicar and all that, they're now in their Repulsor. Obviously, that Repulsor can move probably 20 inches across the battlefield. Then they can come out 3, move their 6, so they're 29 inches forward at the beginning of turn 2, essentially. And then you can charge. So that basically gives these guys a turn 2, 40 inch move, or you'll be able to get in combat with people 40 inches away in turn 2. That's much stronger than them just moving up 6 and then maybe running for the first turn, and maybe even running the second turn as well. Get those guys where you need them to be on the battlefield, and then get something else here in this troop choice. If you do really want to run the scout squad, then beef it up to maybe a 10-man squad with sniper rifles. I could get behind that. Maybe that can survive and sit in your own deployment. And I don't remember the range on scout sniper rifles. What is it? 36. Okay. And obviously you can look out, sir. So, if you had 10 scouts, maybe sniping every turn from your deployment zone, just at random squads, that'd be okay. And then they would survive against some sort of deep strike, maybe. Or an intercessor squad with stalker bolt rifles. They're very much the same. The only difference is the stalker bolt rifles have -2, right? And 2 damage a shot. So they obviously won't be able to pick characters, but you will be able to do more damage with a squad of 5 of them. At that point, you could actually drop those scouts and just have a 10-man squad of them. And if you do have a 10-man squad of those, 10 strength, 4 shots, 2 damage, have -2. That's going to do something every turn. It's going to and also a 10-man squad of these should be able to reliably sit and hold an objective in your deployment zone pretty effectively. And then the last thing you need to tell me, I guess, Mika, you said that you were going to take this list somewhere, or you were going to look at it. You can let me know how you get on with the Baal Predator. I literally, right behind me right now, I will show you what I've been working on. It was one of my videos from a few weeks ago. So I've been working on the Relic Contemptor Dread. This guy comes from Forge World. He's pretty sweet looking. And what's interesting about him is he comes in as elite choice. Doesn't he? Let me double check this. So the Relic Contemptor Dread, let's drop this Ball Predator for a second. Look at the Relic Contemptor, let's remove his weapons. So the Ball Predator was 173 points. A Relic Contemptor with, let's say, 2 autocannons comes in 7 points cheaper than the Ball Predator. The autocannons are heavy 4, so you basically get heavy 8, strength 7, -1, so potentially the ability to do 16 damage per turn. And obviously the Relic Contemptor has a 2+ to hit, where your Ball Predator is going to hit on 3s. He has 1 more wound. He has a 2+ save, again, as opposed to your Ball Predator, who has a 3+ save, and then he has a 5+ invulnerable save, and because he's a Relic of Ancient Glory, he also has a 6+ Feel No Pain. So, I mean, with this loadout, sure, you do get a few less shots, but you get something that's like so much more survivable. And you don't need to take like twin autocannon, right? We know multi-meltas are getting buffed, so big time, I guess multi-meltas are going to be 4 shots, so you could have like a multi-melt arm. I mean, again, 3 points less than your Ball Predator, and now you've got a twin las cannon, and I guess it's going to be a 2-shot strength 8 -4 multi-melta. Like, I think Relic Contemptor Dreadnoughts, they might go up in price in terms of points, but right now they're super awesome. One of the best units that we can get, I think. I just bought one and I've been running it pretty reliably. Relic Contemptor. So you can buy the Relic version. This is what it looks like. Or I think Blood Angels? Content? If I can spell. Yeah, look at this. This is what I bought. This is... I mean, I'm never going to get the detail that they have here, but yeah, I mean, this guy's pretty badass, right? Sort of looks like he would be, few points less and some way better weapon options, I feel. You'll have to let me know how the Ball Predator works out for you. But, and as well, if this guy does get into close combat, then, I mean, he does get 4 attacks. So obviously that's 5 as an Astartes, and he is strength 7. So again, most things in the game you'll hit and wound on 2s. Sure, there's no minus, but if you're marching them forward, I've got one with 4 las cannons on it, and I've been marching them forward, killing like tanks. And then there's been a squad with like 1 guy left over, and I was like, oh shit, well he'll just charge in and just kill that 1 guy, right? Because like he's gonna 6 attacks hitting on 2s. Then wounding on 2s, you're gonna kill something, right? So much better option. So yeah, I hope that was useful, Mika. I hope I said some things that maybe help you out with your list. I guess I've butchered your list in Battlescribe, so I'm probably not going to save and send it to you. I normally do that, but yeah, I guess that it is what it is. So hopefully that... I'm just going to close this. I don't actually know how to create a new one without closing and opening it. Right, so we're going to look at another list now. And this list was also from a YouTube comment, and this list was made by Sammy, and his last name looks like it's from, I'd say like Denmark or Norway or something. So Sojlander? I definitely said that wrongly. But okay, so this is he said he's heading towards a tournament. This is his draft at the moment. He would love to get some feedback. He said before the 27th. Well, that sucks if today is too late to give him the feedback, but do you know what? If you go to a tournament and you don't win the tournament, then I always feel like you learn more when you win. Sorry, you learn more when you lose than when you win. So we'll go ahead and make it now and see what happens. Okay, so same deal. We've got one additional relic of Baal. We have Asteroth, and this is Soul Warden. So he's the Warlord. So Soul Warden basically lets Asteroth deny a psychic power each turn. You can attempt to resist one psychic power with your Warlord. So I guess you would just roll your 2d6 as normal, and you would just get an additional deny. And then what the standard sort of Mandra Central Hate. This is great. Carbolo. So Carbolo is basically a Sanguinary Priest without the jump pack. He basically has a slightly better chainsword, but what he does have is a Far-Seeing Eye, which lets him reroll one dice every turn for free. So quite useful if you're using the Narthseum that heals units. You know, if you have a bad heal roll or you fail to heal, you can get them back alive. I have been using Outrider. When 9th edition first came out, I was using Outriders probably in like my first 3 or 4 army lists. I only had the 3 that came with the Indominus box, so I was painting them and I was using them in every battle, but after their initial charge, because you get the +2 on the first turn with the charge with Outriders, I really don't think they're that strong after the initial charge phase, right? So every other turn you're still in combat, your enemy's turn, etc., they're really not that strong. And I very quickly got rid of them, and then I started running aggressors again. I mean, they're exact same points as an aggressor squad with the auto bolt storms. And if you think about it this way, like, the Outriders would have 1 more wound, and they would get they have a twin bolter, so they get 4 shots, and then obviously they have a very strong movement. I think their movement characteristic is like 12 or 14, right? But if you think about aggressors only move 5, but then we can advance and shoot with no penalty, so you get +1 from the Blood Angels, so then you roll your dice, so your aggressor moves like 9 or 10 inches. He gets 6 bolt storm shots and then d6 grenade shots. So again, an average of like 9 or 10 shots. So he's already got basically double the shots, or 2.5 times the shots of each Outrider. Sure, his shots have no minus, whereas Outriders have -1. But I kind of feel like the 2.5 shots is more valuable than a -1. And then if your aggressors do end up in combat, obviously they've got the aggressor gauntlets, which are basically power fists. So they're just so much more brutal, and they cost the exact same number of points. And then if the aggressors don't move, they get to shoot twice, right? So each aggressor can basically do 20 shots. Now, if you compare that to your 4 shots from your Outrider, that's where I was really struggling with. Like, I guess if you play aggressors, when I was running it, I was running 2 squads of aggressors, and I guess if you position them well, I'd say that in every single game there's at least 1 turn where they do not need to move, right? Like, you've moved them forward and you've got them in a great position where they're maybe covering the middle of the battlefield, or they're covering a couple of objectives, and then if you don't need to move, it's just like, alright, well, these aggressors are literally going to get 12 shots per model, so that's 36, plus an additional 66. So you basically end up with like 50 or 60 shots from the aggressors. And it's worth noting, with the aggressor's Firestorm, they can actually shoot at 2 different targets. So you can do the first 30 shots against one target, see if you kill it, and then shoot again. And I know that Blood Angels aren't really about shooting, but like, I like to get into people's face. And what I was struggling with the bikes was, the bikes would like zoom up the table, but then they'd be very exposed and they would end up just getting killed. And I don't know, every time I got them into combat with the charge, I never felt like they did enough damage to warrant the points. So, I mean, I've seen people running 6-man squads of Outriders, 9-man squads of Outriders, and like maybe they're a lot more effective in a larger squad, and maybe just 3 of them doesn't work. But my experience with them, I guess, is not been good. I hope that answers your question. Okay, and then this list as well has another Sanguinary Priest. This Sanguinary Priest has the Angel's Wing. It seems a bit crazy that you would use it on a Sanguinary Priest, but okay. So, the Angel's Wing obviously denies Overwatch being fired against you. Why am I not seeing it? Oh yeah, because I had to click jump pack. Okay. So the Angel's Wing does that, and then we have, in this list, we have 2 Assault Intercessor squads, and we have an Infiltrator squad. I've been running a lot of Infiltrators. I think they're great. They're very good at denying Deep Strike. They're good for holding objectives in your own zone. The only thing they struggle with, I guess, is something like a drop pod full of Devastators. That will wreck them, but at the moment that will wreck most of our troop choices that you want to be holding objectives in our own deployment zone. So, I mean, that's what that is. Then this list has 2 squads of Blade Guard veterans. So we talked about how great they were. And it has a Judicar, and it has a Sanguinary Ancient with an axe and the Standard Sacrifice. So I see a lot of people running Power Fists in Sanguinary Guard. But axes, I think, are also a very decent option. And then this list here, we have 2 squads of Sanguinary Guard. Both have 5. So the first one has 5, and it's Infernal Pistol Power Fist times 2. And then it's Bolt Gun and Sword times 3. And then in the second squad, it's the same, Infernal and Power Fist times 2. Bolt Gun and Axe times 3. So I think what I just want to say about Sanguinary Guard right now is I think the +1 strength from the axe just makes wounding things so much more reliable, right? Because as we know, Blood Angels get +1 to wound, so if you, even against toughness 8 with the axe, you'll wound on 4s. And the sword doesn't have any, it's just user strength at the moment. But then, because we know power swords are changing, the Sanguinary swords may end up changing as well. That might be interesting if that does happen. But axes seem to be a really go-to. Obviously, the bolt guns seem to be a really go-to. I like the Infernal Pistols. I do not like Plasma Pistols. I think they're not worth it because I never feel like you can shoot them reliably in high power. So there's that. And then do you know what? What's funny is after you asking the question about the Outriders, this list has 3 squads of them. So like it's just talked a lot about Outriders. Let's just have a look at their profile together for a second. So I'll just look at the Sergeant because the Sergeant's probably got 1 extra attack, right? So toughness 5, so the same as the Gravix armor, still 3+ save, 4 wounds. They just have the -1 from the Chainsword, so I guess 5 attacks normally, and then 4 attacks on the other guys. So because there's only 3 of them, you basically have 13 attacks. You do get +2 to charge on the turn that you do the charging, right? Devastating Charge, I believe it's called. Yeah. So on the turn you charge, you get 19 attacks if the squad's at full. They also have quite big bases though, so I suppose that's worth mentioning. If you're going to run 9 of them down a flank or something, you may struggle to get them all into combat just because, I mean, the base of an Outrider is like 2 or 3 regular guys base size. Yeah, I'd be really interested to see a battle report where someone uses 3 squads of Outriders and actually see what happens, like see what they actually manage to take out, because or it could have just been the times that I played and got them into combat. I got them into combat against. I think one time I got them in against aggressors. One time I got them in Sisters of Battle. And yeah, I just wasn't impressed with what they did really. I mean, it is just chainswords, and I guess they do have less attacks than your assault intercessor squads. So if you think about the damage your assault intercessor squads do, I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's fine for a 95-point troop choice, but when these guys are 135 points, so basically almost 150% of the cost, actually, yeah, almost 150% of the cost, and they only do 75% of the damage in close combat, and that's kind of their role. I'm not really loving them. So what is that? That's 405 points of Outriders. I mean, maybe... I don't know. I'd really need to see a battle report. I just did not see the effectiveness of them. And then this list, I guess, because you've got 6 Blade Guards, maybe all 6 of them are going to go into an Impulsor, because an Impulsor can carry 6. It might be better, though, I suppose, to carry the 3 in the Judicar and maybe, like... I don't think you've got any other Primaris characters in this list, so I suppose it depends. It's an Impulsor with a shield dome. That seems to be the standard loadout for the Impulsor. And then for heavy support, we have 2 squads of Eradicators, a squad of Eradicators. So Eradicators, there's nothing in this list that's going to buff their shooting, from what I can see. Like, there's no Captain, there's no Dante, there's no Lieutenant for rerolls. So these guys are going to be okay, but they're not going to be that survivable. I'm trying to work out how this list runs, because if you have the Impulsor with the Blade Guards in it, you have the Assault Squads and the 2 Sanguinary Guard moving up the battlefield. I guess maybe you have the Outriders on the other flank, and then the Eradicators just sort of moving up the centre. I think stuff like the Eradicators work best with something to buff them, and also maybe if they're near the standard of sacrifice. I think otherwise they just maybe get shot off the table too easily. My 9th edition list, I'm not using the Eradicators. I am using Contemptor Dreadnought for a bit of heavy support, and I'm using it with 2 las cannons on each arm, so it's basically 4 las cannon shots. So I think it's kind of comparable to this. The difference is this could potentially be 6 shots, but only 24-inch range. Las cannons obviously 48-inch range. Sorry. So yeah, I mean, I can see some synergies in this list, but I probably wouldn't have... Oh, shit. Oh, it's not... He's not the Warlord. He just has the Angel's Wing. That seems like a strange choice, because people have to pay CP now for Overwatch. You really might be better going with the icon of the Angel for that, just so whoever is near the Priest can reroll their charges as well. Obviously the Angel's Wing lets you reroll, but it's just yourself. But if you're worried about... I don't know if Overwatch is such a big concern in 9th edition, right? Like, because they have to pay the CP to use it, and there's usually better options for the CP. It really depends. Like, I have a Leviathan Dreadnought. I'd pay Overwatch on that if the enemy's within 8 inches, right? Because he's got 2 heavy flamers and they're auto hits. But other than that, I'm not sure what all I would play Overwatch on. Like, if I had a Land Raider or something heavy like that, probably wouldn't play Overwatch on it. So I think the Angel's Wing has lost some of its value in the new edition, especially if you've got, like, if you're dropping in and you've got these 3 squads all dropping in, it's a 40% chance that they get in, or if they have the Angel's Wing, it's a 65% chance that you get in. It's much higher. It's the difference between, like, saying, like, you're going to drop in these 4 things, maybe you drop in Asteroth as well, right? So Asteroth, the Ancient. So you drop in 5 things and you have 40. So 2 out of 5 get in. Whereas if you have the Angel's Wing, 3.5 out of 5 get in, maybe, or at least 3 get in. So it's a whole extra unit actually making that first turn charge from Deep Strike. I suppose it depends on how you run them. I mean, obviously these guys can fly up the board, but then you risk getting shot. So I guess there's that. And it depends as well on the map, right? Like, quite a few of these maps in 9th edition have like 2 objectives in your own deployment zone. So if you get 2 objectives in your own deployment zone, paying for an Assault Intercessor squad that only have an 18-inch range to sit on that objective in your deployment zone for the entire game is kind of a waste of points. If you paid the extra 5 and had just a regular Intercessor squad with like Stalker bolt rifles, you could shoot the entire game. So, you know, there's some questions about that. I'd also drop one of the Infernal Pistols in the Sanguinary Guard and give the Ancient Infernal Pistol. Like, he's more survivable. You know, like, he's got an extra 2 wounds, I believe. Yeah, an extra 2 wounds. So I'd almost be tempted to give him one of your Infernal Pistols, right? Because he's likely going to be surviving more, and if you put the Sanguinary Guard around him so that the enemy can't shoot him, that would be a better option. Bearing in mind, like, if you're within 3 inches of your own squad and it's more than 3 units and he's not the closest enemy, the enemy can't shoot him, so you've got that going on. Yeah, I mean, if this was my list, I'd probably drop a squad of Outriders and just figure out some other sort of reasonably decent support option. I don't think I would play. I think I would struggle with this list because obviously it depends on the meta that you play in, right? I know that I play against an Ultramarines player that runs a shitload of aggressors, and Outriders just get murdered by them, both in shooting and in close combat. So they would struggle against that. And then I play against a Sisters of Battle list that has a lot of invulnerable saves, and because these are all just 1 damage chainswords. Sorry, not invulnerable saves. Feel no pain saves, because these are all just 1 damage chainswords. They're gonna struggle as well. And then what else have we been playing against? Iron Hands. You know, the Iron Hands that I fight against with this Leviathans with the double storm cannons. One of those storm cannons could probably delete, like, 10 shots. So they would be hitting them on 2s, wounding them on 3s. So let's say like 8 hits, then like 6 wounds, and you'd only save on 5s, and it's 2 damage each. So like each storm cannon could potentially take out a whole squad of Outriders, or at least it would at least decimate the squad, like take 2 out of the 3 models. So if you're just driving these guys forward across the battlefield, they're quite big, like I said, so you're going to struggle to get into combat. You're also going to struggle to hide them behind buildings. They don't get cover. I actually don't know if bikes get cover. I want to say they don't, because vehicles don't get cover, right? Do they have like a... Does this show their keywords? No. Unit. I actually don't know. If someone knows in the chat, maybe you can tell me. Do bikes get cover saves in 9th edition? I haven't... I honestly don't know. But yeah, I mean, I guess I have seen a few people now send me lists with 9 Outriders in it. And yeah, I mean, even with the Devastating Charge, which gives you a bonus 6 attacks, you're still going to have less attacks than an Assault Intercessor squad, right? Because your Assault Intercessor Sergeant has 3, 4 from charging, 5 from the chainsword, and the other guys would obviously have 2, 4 from charging, 5 from the chainsword. So a regular Intercessor squad actually is 19. So on the charge, the Outriders are the same 19. I don't think typically Assault Intercessors, you know, like if they run into another squad of Marines, they kill a couple of them, maybe? Like 19 attacks hitting on 3s, so you drop 6 of them straight away, so you've got like 13 hits. Then you're wounding on 3s, so drop another third of them, so maybe like 9 wounds. So if you're hitting other Space Marines, 9 wounds, -1, so they basically have a 4+ save. So let's say half of them save, so 2.5 wounds on a regular squad. Now, I guess if it's Sisters of Battle, it might be a few more, but if it's only 2.5 wounds and the guys you're running up against have any form of feel no pain, they're really not going to do, 135 points to do like 4 wounds to regular Space Marine squad. That seems really bad, I guess. Like, just doesn't seem like very much bang for your buck, right? If you talk about like the Blade Guard, like if that was an aggressor squad, I mean, if we just use the aggressor squad example I had, obviously the aggressors move a lot slower, but in terms of shooting, you're talking 30 shots again, 3s, so you'd be looking at they hit on 2s, so basically you would have 15 shots through at no AP, so they save on 3s, so again drop a quarter of them, so like basically the aggressors would do this and the same number of damage that the Outriders do, and then the aggressors haven't even used their close combat weapons yet, and when they get in on close combat, I've only had aggressors actually in close combat once recently. I've ended up shooting them a lot. When they did get into close combat, they did a ton though, but I think it's the same, right? Yeah, so it's 3 attacks, so 4 for the Sergeant, 3 for the regular aggressors, and I guess they hit on 4s because of the double strength, but then they will pretty much wound anything in the game on 2s, right? So your aggressor squad would get 12 attacks, hitting on 4s, so 6 go through, but then you're wounding anything on 2s, so maybe like 5 wounds, and then it's -3 with D3 damage. And they're probably not getting a save, or they're probably only saving on 6s. So your aggressor squad is going to do way more in shooting. They're going to do way more in melee. It'd just be about getting the aggressor squad in the right place. So that's really up to you, moving them through the battlefield correctly, potentially within range of the standard of sacrifice. Yeah. So I guess the jury is out on Outriders. Someone needs to send me a link of them using Outriders, tell me what they did, show me exactly what happened. I am really not sure about them. Okay, and then what else could we look at in this list? These 2 character options are not that strong, and also they're kind of both do the same thing, right? Like, Sanguinary Priest is a healer, Carbolo is a healer with exploding 6s. Also feel like Carbolo is going to be quite, like, where is Carbolo walking through the map with your Eradicators, and the Sanguinary Priest is flying with the Ancient and the Sanguinary Guard? I mean, I guess maybe that's okay. I just think there's probably something more interesting to do. I mean, I guess, like, the Sanguinary Priest, I guess they can buff the Outriders, and Carbolo could buff, but then the problem with that is obviously Carbolo will never be able to keep up with Outriders because of his movement. Yeah, I mean, I think you need to, if you watch this video, Sammy, you need to tell me exactly how. Tell me in the comments below how how you run this list. Send me some photos from the tournament if you go to the tournament with this list as well, because that would be interesting to see. It's just not what I'm running right now. You'll see what, like, my list is pretty much finalised now for 9th edition, or at least until we get the new codex. I don't know when we're going to be able to play with that list, though. I'd like to play and get a battle report up. Just the country that I'm in is basically about to go into a second lockdown because of the COVID nonsense. So I guess whenever that is done, I will get a new battle report up. But I have one coming this week as well, so... Okay, well, thank you for the people that tuned in. I know that there's been a few people tuned in the entire stream today. That's very cool. It's nice to see some support. And thanks for the questions in the chat. I hope this has been helpful. Yeah, I've got a few cool videos planned for this next week. So hopefully just going to keep going, bring out tons of Blood Angels content while the world goes into another lockdown or whatever nonsense that's going on. So, really glad to see you guys all. And, I guess I will see you all next week. And hopefully, like I said, next Saturday, the rumour is there are new Space Marine releases. So if we do get new releases and there's stuff up to order on Saturday, then I hope they'll share some stats. So maybe next week the plan will be to look at some stats from the new stuff that's being released. We'll talk about what is being released and what you should buy. And then we'll jump into army lists, because we always like to look at army lists and see if we can improve stuff. I have been saying for a few weeks that I want to share my army list. What I'll try and do soon is share this Iron Hands battle. And then after that, I made some tweaks. So I think I have a final 9th edition army list. And just for fun, we've been working on painting a Death Company Impulsor. I don't even know if Death Company are going in it, but I thought it would be a cool thing to try. So that'll be a painting video that's coming up as well. And he's the Impulsor is definitely going to be in that 9th edition list for the moment. All right, I will speak to you all soon. Until next time. By the blood are we made. Peace.